future for the very people that these reforms were meant to uplift. Now, for those of you who may think that Bala, that is the writer of that particular piece, is being unnecessarily worried, he immediately refers to the World Bank's African Pulse report that was released just last month. And in that particular report, the projection is that poverty in Nigeria is expected to worsen significantly over the next 5 years. Let that sink in a bit. Well, in fact, the World Bank, in a separate report released also last month, titled The Poverty and Equity Brief for Nigeria, suggests that 75% of rural Nigerians are now living below the poverty line, which reflects that, see, the hardship in the country, especially in the hinterlands, the rural areas, is worsening. Well, according to the report, based on the most recent official household records, which is the general benchmark, for global oil prices, has fallen below $60 per barrel in the past few days. And this only means that for a country like Nigeria that projected an oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel and daily production of around 2.06 million barrels per day, in the 2025 budget, it means that we could lose up to 19.6 trillion naira in projected oil revenue if these current trends persist through the year. Now, the big question is, how is Nigeria going to survive all of these negative projections that have been put forward by the same set of people who had projected that we need some of these reforms at hand? Well, my guest this morning is an investment banker, economist, and policy expert. He is Mr. Sidiku Olayinka Oscars. Good morning, Mr. Oscars.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us on the follow-up on Adami Mogo 93.1 FM this morning. Let's get straight to business. And I would like to start with, it is obvious now more than ever that some Nigerians are not happy with these economic reforms that the president is at to embark upon. It's something that we hear almost on a daily basis. But from your own point of view, I'm curious as to, do you think these reforms are fundamentally flawed, or are they poorly timed, or what else could be the problem with these reforms as to why we're not seeing the immediate impact, feeling the immediate impact, especially for the common Nigerians out there?
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again for having me.
Yeah.
Well, I have to state for clarity that it will be difficult to state a yes or no answer to your question, but we will look at this issue based on what government has promised to do, vis-a-vis what has been done before and what Nigerians expect from their government. Now, reforms and policies of government can be seen as activities or actions of government that they want to do or things that they don't want to do. Now, these policies or reforms are informed by the promises that the administration made to the people during the campaigns. Then it is on that premise that governments now make their policies and their reforms. Naturally, policies are supposed to be bottom up, supposed to be a situation where identified issues or problems that have been seen in the society or in the environment, that's the policy environment, informed what actions or inactions of government could be. Now, as a result of these problems, government now formulates policies to address the problems. Now, do we have the problems of revenue in Nigeria? The answer is yes. Now, do we have the problems of infrastructural deficit or decay in Nigeria? The answer is yes. Do we have the problem of fiscal and monetary deficit in Nigeria? The answer is yes. Do we have macroeconomic issues in Nigeria? The answer is yes. Now, if government wants to solve all these problems, they would have to formulate policies that would allow them to do this work. And now inform the decision of the president to remove outrightly fuel subsidy. And that's where also some people will argue that the problem starts from.
Yeah.
Now, we are as an economist and as a policy analyst who look at this thing critically, government need to hit the ground running. They need all the revenues they can get. They need all the grants that they can get. They need all the loans that they can get. They need all the taxes or the returns on taxes that they can get. They need all the GNIs. They need all the FDIs to come in just for them to be able to have money to run the government. So government will have to make a decision to say, okay, well, out of all these things that we need, what are the quick wins that you are looking at? The, one of the quickest wins that government has at the point was to remove subsidy, because the money from subsidy will be coming in immediately. And in a month, we save, let's say in a month, we save 400 billion from fuel subsidy removal. Then in a quarter, government would have saved about 1.2 trillion in subsidy, right? Or in subsidy revenue. So it is expedient at that point that government has to take that decision in order for them to have money to run government. So if you ask me this question, I will tell you that as a reformist, as a policy expert, I would have suggested that the government remove the subsidy in phases.
Okay.
There should be a facial removal of subsidy in order to ameliorate, the surface of the on the people. The sudden and the actual removal of subsidy is what has accumulated into hardship and hardship upon hardship for ordinary Nigerians. So that is that in terms of policy on subsidy. Another policy that government took out immediately is to devalue the naira. They did that in order for them to grow the naira strength against the dollar. So what did they do? They created this IRP window where importer and exporter determine the price of commodities, right? They create a free flow economy where the marketers or the investors determine what the value of naira is against the dollar. They did that, and we can now see the effect. The third thing that they do was to introduce these tax reforms policy that they do, where each region of the nation would determine how much they can collect in terms of taxes. But all these policies, frameworks put together have yielded both positive and negative responses. Now, the positive response is that we have been able to remove subsidies that go to few Nigerians and return the monies back to the confines of the government. The monies now go into three, the sharing formula for the money goes into three strata. The federal government gets theirs, the state government gets theirs, and the local government, as it were, get theirs also. Now, the question is, do we have any state governors in Nigeria or local government chairmen in Nigeria that says that since the removal of subsidy, their allocation from federal government have not increased by at least 30%? Do we have any such governor in Nigeria?
The governors seem to be praising the president for at least taking a bullet for them all.
Yes. That is a very, very good point that you have made. But nobody talks about all these things. But as analysts, we look at all these things, as analysts, and we look at all these reforms and all these policies, and how and why it is beating so hard on the people. Nobody asks to take government any question. Nobody asks to look government, a chairman, any question. All the blames and the responsibility lies on the president. Now, that is that about the revenue addition or increment on state allocations or whatever that comes to the state. Now, on the side of naira devaluation, PCBN through other monetary policy agencies have also been spending a lot of money from their foreign reserves to ensure that there's a parity between dollar and naira exchange rate. Now, what they have been advised people to do is to either buy Nigeria or encourage productivity, such that if Nigeria now begin to export, we can bring in foreign direct investment in Nigeria and encourage foreign investment to come into Nigeria, we will be able to match on with whatever that comes in with dollars and naira parity. Then the third, which is also a form of fiscal devaluation or fiscal decentralization, is the fiscal tax reform. These tax reforms enable states to be able to, increase whatever that they collect in terms of IGR. That's the internally generated revenue. The state cannot determine and increase, based on the kind of commodities that they sell, right, within the state, to increase or shoot up the revenue that they're generating in that state. So it then puts the state at competition that whatever that state A is earning before, by encouraging more businesses to come into that state and providing policies frameworks that will assist those businesses to thrive in their state, they now get more in terms of revenue of what the government policies and the several reforms that of what the government policies and the several reforms that we have seen in this Bola Ahmed administration has brought over and introduced into the economic outlook of Nigeria,
All right.
2024 year end and first quarter 2025.
Mr. Oscars, these reforms were obviously meant to be one that would bring a lot of reprieve generally to the economy. And just like you suggested, all the governors, majority of the governors, can now attest to the fact that they've seen revenue double or even tripled in some instances. A lot of them over the weekend came out to say that they've also been able to drastically reduce their debt burden and so many other things as a result of the increase in revenue that progress in terms of while this is affecting reducing the poverty level in Nigeria. So how exactly is this meant to work that in a way that it will reduce poverty, improve the living conditions of a lot of Nigerians? Is there something that we're meant to be doing that is fundamentally out of the scheme entirely and that is giving us perhaps some bit of negative results here?
Yes, yes, there are a lot of things that we should be doing, and government right now is doing many of these things. Like I said before, when I started this conversation, I made it clear that we have quick wins and we have things that would come after, right?
Yes.
So what we are seeing right now as a result, because every policy, of course, would come with their own action. There's no policy that government makes that doesn't come with its own, negativity or adverse. So it will always come with adverse. But there are quick wins and there are long-term plans. The policies of this administration specifically is not supposed to, solve the problems in 2 years.
Okay.
It is what will happen in 3 years. It's what will happen in 4 years. It's what will happen in 6 years and probably 8 years, even 10 to 15 years. They are mostly long-term effect policy platforms or policy frameworks that will not yield the expected results in the immediate terms. We don't expect that the hardships that have been bequeathed upon Nigeria for the past 16 years is now remediated with, some, few policy frameworks. It doesn't work like that. Just like you trying to, and I don't want to speak like politicians now, it's like you having a car that is moribund already. It doesn't just get back and the engine starts running only 15 miles per hour. It has to take a gradual process for it to be reformed, right? So in this country, we have had situations where dollar was sold at 100 naira to dollar. Then now it is now about 1,500 naira, 1,600 naira. Depending on the market that you're looking at. So several policies of government